Okay, excuse the format here. This is what we got to work with. Important video though. Hear me out. I've been talking about this scene right here, how these three leaves deal with the bombing of the Moss scene. That is, the three planes shooting down the missile, the stem hitting at the bottom where the buck is. I mentioned that the other day. So when you see that, it corresponds with this scene right here, the three leaves shooting the stem down, if you will. And I've been saying that for a long time. It just makes the most sense. Okay, so that's the bombing of the Moss scene. And now the reason why that's important, the reason why I'm making this video, a subscriber named Laura, I pinned her comment in my last video, mentioned that July is the buck moon. Full moons have names. The July moon is the buck moon. And it depends on, where you're at. The Chinese names are different. This is basically American names. July moon is the buck moon. Okay. And she pointed that out. And when you tie that into the bombing of the Moss scene here, understanding that the full moon name is the buck moon, then that would correspond with July. That is the buck corresponding with July. And we have more confirmation of that because when he comes up out of the mosque, if a buck is rising up out of the bombing of the mosque scene and the buck moon is the full moon, well, what do you see when he rises out of the mosque? Right above his head, you see a full moon. And so if we tie all those things together, say, the moon, full moon ties in with the bombing of the mosque scene, and the full moon is, for July, is the buck moon, and you have a buck associated with the bombing of the mosque scene, well, then it just makes perfect sense to say this corresponds with the buck moon. Now, I think that's a pretty strong affirmation that that's talking about July. Definitely. Okay. I wanted to point out this too. The buck moon is on the 27th, and there's also let's see. The buck moon is on the 27th. That's the full buck moon for 2018. Excuse the resolution. But there's also a total lunar eclipse on July 27th. And it's even more interesting that tying in with the bombing of the mosque scene, let's look at this. Tying in with the bombing of the mosque scene, this may be a very important video, ladies and gentlemen. Tying in with the bombing of the mosque scene, the missiles come out, but beside the missiles, you also have the black birds coming up. So you have the black birds coming up out of the mosque. Blackbirds coming up out of the mosque, missiles beside it. Well, in the Osama bin Laden scene, he has the black bird wings, missiles beside him. And what do you see back there? It looks like a lunar eclipse occurring, doesn't it? Because in the lunar eclipse, the moon turns red. That's what it looks like. And so buck moon, bombing of so this ties in with the bombing of the mosque scene. Man, this is pretty crazy. This ties in with the bombing of the mosque scene. Blackbird missiles. I've been saying that for a while. Osama bin Laden depicts the attack on the USA. He was dead when the video came out, but it's using imagery tied into the first 9/11. So this ties into the bombing of the mosque scene. Buck moon ties into the bombing of the mosque scene. At the time of the buck moon, there is a lunar eclipse. The buck moon is the July moon. Crazy.